Good afternoon, everyone. Please feel free to join us, take a seat, and welcome to Conflict Transformation and Community Resilience, Building Trust Through Livelihoods and Dialogue. I'm Meredith Preston McGhie. I'm the Secretary General for the Global Center for Pluralism, and I have the great pleasure to be moderating this panel. I'm going to very, very briefly just introduce our panelists, and then we are going to dive quite quickly into the discussion. We have an hour for this, which is never enough time for conversations like this. Sultan Abbas, the National Manager for Program Development for the Aga Khan Foundation Afghanistan. Sultan, welcome. To my right, I can never tell my right from my left, Professor Yael Burda, Israel Board Co-Chair, and Dr. Rula Hardal, Co-Director of A Land for All, Two States, One Homeland. Elaha Eli Omar, down at the end, there you are, Co-Founder and Executive Director of Uplift Afghanistan Fund. And then if I come back to this side, Bienfait Mugenza, to my left, founder and director of the Congo Peace Academy, and Imke Kerber, advisor of the local conflict counseling at ProPeace in Germany. So please, if you can join me in welcoming the panel. I'm sure some of you were at the opening session this morning, and Angel Gloria said something that stayed with me, that peace must be built. It can't just be wished for. And I think this panel really represents what it looks like when you actually build things really concretely, when you really think about how do you creatively, from the ground up, which is very much, I know, the ethos of the projects at the Paris Peace Forum, how do you look at cooperation from the ground up? How do you imagine creative solutions, potentially in spaces where you can't actually talk about dialogue, you can't actually necessarily talk about certain issues, but you can find ways of cooperating, you can find ways of building trust and social cohesion. And so I'm really delighted that we have such a diverse panel. We're going to be going from Afghanistan to Israel-Palestine to Congo and to Germany today. So you're going to get a really wide-ranging set of contexts and focuses of the various projects that are going to be introducing themselves. What I'm going to ask the panelists to do is just spend about 3 minutes with a brief introduction so that you have a sense of the work that they're doing around these issues. We'll have a quick follow-up where we'll dig a little bit deeper into what some of the techniques are, what some of the experiences are that look at how they're getting to essentially the secret sauce of building social cohesion and trust through the various techniques and approaches that are being taken by the different projects. I do hope if you have questions for one another that you will jump in with those. And then we're really pleased to see a full room. I'm noting that this is a very female room, but you know, there it is. And so we do hope that we will have an opportunity for questions from the audience as well before we hit our 60 minutes. So Sultan, if I may turn to you, I will ask you just in 3 minutes, just talk a little bit about Omid Afghanistan. There's a microphone coming to you.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Am I audible? All right. Well, as you said, peace must be built. It can't be really wished for. So through this project called Omid, Opportunities for Mainstreaming Inclusive Development in Afghanistan, we looked at, the problem of peace building in Afghanistan. How do we do it? You can look at it from multiple perspectives, but we said that it should be built at the local level by empowering communities, by changing their perspective of looking at these conflicts and then including pluralism. The key component of intra-community dialogue that we facilitated to resolve local level conflicts over natural resources was through integrating pluralism into community dialogues. So how did we do that? First, we identified and mapped out local triggers of violence and conflict in Afghanistan at the local level, in rural communities, particularly in rural communities, over a water channel, irrigation channel, or grazing lands, these kinds of issues. And then we train community members in conflict transformation, conflict resolution, and pluralism, the techniques, the approaches, the modern approaches that are there. Although the communities themselves are, they're structured, they have their own histories, but we also try to provide modern tools and techniques and best practices from other contexts, and then theories and then different approaches from worldwide, and said to them that, okay, why don't you look at this issue of cleaning this irrigation canal from a different perspective? Then we provided a micro grant to do that, so that these community members can come together and then work together, which is an irrigation canal which was otherwise was in dispute because of different ethnic groups and different communities pointing fingers at each other that, no, this is your turn to clean it, or this is like not your right to use for water and things like that. So these contestations, but then how you turn this local conflict or crisis into an opportunity through engagement and facilitation of dialogue. And then we also brought vulnerable groups, particularly refugee returnees, a lot of them coming from recently from Pakistan and Iran, women, people with disabilities, women-headed households, because Afghanistan is a war-torn country, so there are a lot of women-headed households as well, ethnic minorities, language minorities, and all these people together. And there are examples, lots of examples. We resolved 40 conflicts in Afghanistan through this approach. I can talk about one particular conflict over a water reservoir in Yakaulang in Bamiyan in central Afghanistan, which was under dispute, and then there were like 5 to 6 different ethnic communities living in that area. These community activists who we trained, about 3,000 community activists across the country, but those in central Bamiyan, they actively sort of reached out to other community members. So all the stakeholders, they facilitated this dialogue, brought these people together, and then sort of highlighted the value of living, through a perspective of embracing the other, by understanding the other, and then in that whole process, living sort of in a way that the benefits of peace are far greater than living in a situation of conflict. So, yeah.
Sultan, thank you. We'll come back, I think, maybe to drill in a little bit more in our next round about sort of how you've actually utilized some of these tools really concretely, but that's a great place to kick us off. And if I may, Elaha, given that we're talking about Afghanistan, we'll pass down to you. We have somebody to help us out here to talk a bit about the Uplift Afghanistan Fund.
Thank you, everybody. I'm also really happy to see the feminine voice presence here. My name is Elaha. I am the executive director of Uplift. We are a participatory grant-making entity, and our focus is connecting impact-driven donors with grassroots, locally led, and community initiatives in Afghanistan. We look at it we're mostly Afghan and females running the fund, so we're culturally grounded, and we work by evidence. We have different sectors of support, which I'll talk to you guys about today, which is community resilience and livelihood, but also mental health, women's economic agency, education, and cultural preservation. One of our main partners in Afghanistan is the Community-Driven Development Organization. They're actually here present with us today. And the CDDO, they work across the country with 35,000 community representative groups, formerly known as the Community Development Councils. These are locally elected members representing their village, their community. They include both women and men. 2 weeks ago, I was in Afghanistan. I was in Salang, and I was visiting one of our community livelihood and resilience projects. the community were rebuilding, or actually building a water canal that gave access to clean drinking water to 600 households. Now, typically, these families would have to climb or walk down the mountain, get water from the Salang River, and climb back up. And so this water canal impacted lots of lives, and really also of women's lives, because there were mostly the women and the children who fetched the water. But in all honesty, what struck me the most wasn't really the physical repair, it was more of the social repair that was taking place. In areas where conflict and displacement had really eroded trust, I actually saw people sitting together, debating priorities, working collectively, and earning an income. And it was really about restoring something deeper, a sense of dignity, of purpose, and of belonging. One of the testimonials, and by the way, all these projects are community-owned, and run and managed from start to finish. They have full equity of their projects. And yes, I think that if Afghanistan has really taught us anything, it's that rebuilding trust starts with the people, and the recovery process must also be led by the community. Because when community comes together to rebuild infrastructure, for example, they're also rebuilding something much more valuable, which is trust in one another and belief in a shared future. Thank you.
Elaha, that's a perfect segue, I think, to hand over to Rula and Yael. We couldn't have choreographed it better.
Exactly, and we are doing both, actually, that things, solutions, building trust needs to come from the community, from both Israelis and Palestinians, and to create together a shared future. So my name is Rula Hardal. I'm the co-director of A Land for All, 2 states, 1 homeland. It's Palestinian-Israeli joint political organization and movement that advocates for a political solution and political vision to end the conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, based on several principles. I will mention them very briefly, and then my colleague Yael is going to explain a little bit about the political vision itself and how we translate these principles into a political framework. The principles are actually to start from ending the conflict, as simple as it sounds. What we've been seeing during the last 2 years is a result of trying to manage the conflict instead of ending the occupation and having 2 equal states, Israel and Palestine, and speaking about the right of self-determination as a very fundamental right of the Palestinian people in their own state. The second principle is to acknowledge the reality on the ground between the sea and the river, that we have 2 national groups, and both of them claim their belonging to this place, Israel and Palestine, and both claim also the right of self-determination in 2 separate sovereign states in this place, where we actually have 1 state that is sovereign and acknowledged, while the other one still under military control and occupation of the second state, or the first state, which is Israel. The other principles, if we speak about solving the conflict, we need to speak about equality. To get sharing, we need to speak about equality. And because we are speaking about national groups, it's not enough to speak about the liberal notion of equality, which is individual equality, which is important, but also collective equality. And the last 2 important principles are recognition of our both uninational traumatic history, claims, interests, and desires that belong to this, or that attached to this place, Israel-Palestine. It's something that is related to transformative national narratives, and reconciliation It's not enough to speak about solving the conflict and signing peace agreements. Peace is wonderful, it's needed. But signing and reaching peace agreements is not enough. We need to also to speak about reconciliation between the two people.
Thank you. So if we accept, as Rula just said, that both peoples are today rooted in this land and equally deserving of security and dignity, then we need a political framework that can actually deliver that reality instead of this thinking in a zero-sum game. And so our core idea is simple and transformative. 2 states to end the occupation and 1 homeland to end the conflict. A Land for All proposes 2 fully sovereign states, Israel and Palestine, recognized along the 1967 borders, and with Jerusalem as a capital of both. And each state preserves self-determination and culture and national identity of its own people. Citizenship also remains national. So Israelis vote for an Israeli parliament, Palestinians vote for a Palestinian parliament. But instead of separation and walls and segregation, our vision guarantees freedom of movement and residence throughout the entire homeland. People can live and they can work and they can be with their families and they can go to the sea. They can study anywhere while their political rights and belonging remain within the nation state. So no one is displaced, and no one loses their home, and no one is destroyed, and no one loses their rights. So we also aim to dismantle the projects of power and expansion, but acknowledge people's connection to all of the land. And we design joint institutions for the things that are already shared: water, parts of the economy, the environment, the holy sites, and security responsibilities that focus on protection and not domination. So this is the only framework that actually addresses the root of the problem, a conflict and not just over borders, but over belonging. And so this is a future where freedom and security are mutual, where there's a home for each and a homeland for all. Thank you so much.
Yaela and Rula, thank you so much. And I think what you're speaking about looms so large in so many minds right now, but is deeply practical. And I think what we're hearing from all of our panelists is, how do you get to the practical? Bienfait is, I can have the microphone. Bienfait, I know the work that you're doing in Congo is rooted in peace, but also in practical engagements in the agricultural sector. So over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Bienfait Mugenza, representing Congo Peace Academy, and it's a story that is filled with a lot of traumatic experience on my side, because actually a day before I had to travel, coming to this incredible event, my car was targeted, and I got involved in a very dangerous accident right in Goma as I was coming back from seeing my family, telling them that I was going to travel. This group of members of a rebel group just created an unnecessary barricade as I was driving. They just blocked my road, causing me a terrible accident. Thank God I survived because of airbag. And you can imagine when the airbag had to come out, it means it was quite deadly. So it's an example of some of the situations I will try to highlight as I talk about Congo Peace Academy, an organization that believes that peace is important and it has to be treated as a holistic matter, because it starts with perception, first of all. Especially conflict starts with perception of accessibility, and then it becomes a lived experience that leads to many other complicated issues. So we train people at Congo Peace Academy in conservation agriculture, and we use agriculture as an opportunity to bring people together so they can talk about other complicated problems that we could not otherwise be able to have them engaged in. Because there are many sensitive issues in places like Eastern Congo, where people for 30 years and more have been subjected to cruelty, death, and destruction by rebel groups and some other conflicts are ethnic based, and these situations just put people in a very unstable context that cannot allow you to just come with whatever topics you want to come with and start discussing. So we realized that because rural areas in Eastern Congo has around 85% of the population farmers, they are subsistence farmers, and they are mostly touched when it comes to the consequences of these kind of conflicts that have been keeping the country in a very chaotic situation for years. Them being the majority of the population, I mean the farmers, it's hard to access them without bringing agriculture to the table. So, but the agriculture that they have been practicing for years is an agriculture technique that destroys the land. And we live in these hilly communities where if you plow, you expose your soil to erosion, you expose your soil to less fertility over time, and you cause destruction for your own soil and for your own productivity. So we developed the non-tillage technique, and we also added the composting system, which we teach many people, and many other activities related to the conservation agriculture technique. And that's how we bring people together to talk about peace. But it's a really holistic approach, making sure they have food for themselves and develop self-reliance rather than dependence. But the context we are working in is quite traumatic, and myself, I'm still recovering from the experience I just experienced a few days ago.
Bienfait, I'm glad you're okay. I think it's a really powerful reminder of the day-to-day lived realities that people are struggling with, and then being asked to address all of the bigger issues of the conflict and so forth in the society. Imke, I'm going to ask you to talk to us a little bit about your work in Germany.
Yes, with pleasure. It's great to see so much interest in the work we're doing. And you may wonder how local conflict counseling in Germany is connected to agri-peace in Congo or livelihood support in Afghanistan or other approaches. But to my understanding, we all share the same mission, and that is to support people to build a more just and peaceful future. And this is such a complex endeavor that it needs so many different approaches. And for the last 30 years, Pro-Peace fosters non-violent conflict transformation, because we believe that this is really an essential part of peace building. And we empower people all over the globe in their commitment to peace, both in international war zones and crisis regions, but also within Germany. And we decided to present today the work we're doing in Germany because we thought maybe it's a very interesting addition to what we already have at the table. And we also want to underline that peace building and conflict transformation is needed everywhere, also in Europe and Germany. And local conflict counseling is a well-defined approach, and we have been practicing it for the last 15 years. And I love to talk about it for hours, but I will keep myself short, at least for now. But very short in a nutshell. So when we see social conflict or tension in Germany, no matter the size of the district or city or village, we offer support to both state and civil society actors to deal with the conflict non-violently. And I just quickly want to flag the main principles of our work, because maybe we also find some connection in that. So first of all, we view that conflicts are complex systems. So there is not a single root cause to social conflict. And this is both a challenge and a chance, because it is a complex system. We have multiple ways to actually address them and to reduce the dynamics. And this is really why we think that system thinking is so important when it comes to conflict transformation. And second of all, we think that the local actors, they are key to both understanding and dealing with the conflict. So this is why we directly talk to the people who are involved and really put that into the focus. In the work we do, we don't take sides, so we have a multi-partial approach. It is challenging and it's getting more and more challenging, but I think I will come to that later on to keep that. And also, I want to point out that we perceive ourselves in the role as an advisor and not as somebody who's solving the conflict. So we are third parties and we are able to professionally guide local actors, but it's really about them finding their own strategies and really equip them to empower themselves to deal with conflict in the future. And last but not least, with the local conflict counseling, even we start with a very specific conflict at hand, we try to look at the bigger system and to transform it. So it's really about promoting change in behavior, it's improving structures, conditions, rebuilding trust and cooperation among local actors. So it's really much more than just looking at one single conflict. And I'm sure that some of you think, or that sounds very familiar, and fun fact, we actually took this approach from the international peace work and then adapted it to the German context. And I'm so curious to learn more, and I already made some notes from the presenting, and I'm of course very happy to share so much more about the local conflict counseling.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to do another quick round here and then open it up to this room that is getting more and more and more packed with pro-peace women as we go. I've noticed some more men who have joined us. We're deeply grateful for you to join as well. This is unusual to have a session that is imbalanced in that way. I might pass back, Rula and Yael, to you first. I think you give such a powerful statement of this vision, but you're also deeply rooted in the practicalities of how people cooperate and talk about these things at a moment where people might not feel this is possible. And so I wonder if you can just speak a little bit to that question of practicality, of how do you make this vision living out for people on a day-to-day basis. Got a microphone for whoever wants to start.
So I'll start and you'll jump in. So we actually we have a two-pronged movement. So developing expertise and researching and understanding how this thing can work. What can we already use that does work on the ground? A very pragmatic approach of how do you make this vision, and on the other hand, a movement of activists where you have a Palestinian contingent and an Israeli contingent, and people are joining in, they're listening in, they're trying to find a way in which this kind of vision can be adapted to what it is that they're doing. And so we have a lot of partnerships also with other organizations where we provide this kind of long-term view and a thinking that is looking to what we do today and making sure that what we do today is forward-looking to this kind of vision to make it viable.
Maybe to complete the answer, the answer is very fundamental with our existence as a land for all. We have the political vision, and we start from that. It's first of all co-created political vision. It comes from the people. It's not an Israeli solution imposed on the Palestinians, or it's not also an American or American European Western solution. This is one. The second point is by speaking about a political vision and not only dialogue and building trust, And the political vision aims to, or looks first of all, to the reality very, very bravely, in a very brave way, and offering to start from solving the conflict and ending the occupation, in itself actually gives the people the opportunity to speak about the future and to engage with the political vision, because both people during the last at least 25 years gave up in thinking about the future. Since the failure of the last peace efforts, before two and a half decades, people stopped speaking about a political vision and about a better future. So these two components, in addition to what Yael said, are actually by definition in our work, in the political vision that we offer, give the people the opportunity to think about a better future.
It's interesting as you think about the political vision almost as a space to enable people to come together, and just thinking about so many of the things that all of you are doing is creating a space for cooperation and collaboration. And so I did want to turn back to Afghanistan, and Alaha, I might go to you first about, so often we see Afghanistan as a war-torn society, sort of a closed space, a catastrophe in this moment and so forth. But there's so much possibility in what you're seeing in enabling community to come together. So maybe you can speak more to that.
Actually, there's been 5 decades of war and conflict in Afghanistan. This is not something new. And what I see, having worked there extensively now, is that there are multiple truths that exist. Yes, the situation is horrific for women. But yes, communities are also doing amazing work. And I think with this, to be able, because I feel like it when you're just talking about the negativity, it also discredits the good work that's being done. And most of the good work that's being done in Afghanistan is really community driven. And so I do think that it's important to continue, because it all comes down to even scaling. It really comes down to more funding. But you want to make it more, you want to build that trust with the donors as well, to let them know that good things are happening and to be able to communicate that.
Thank you, Sultan. I may then just pass over to you to continue the Afghan theme in this moment. I know you and I have talked about the idea that pluralism is a big idea, as a political vision is a big idea. How do you make these things practical in the work that you're doing to enable people on the ground, as you were talking about, cooperate, whether it's over a shared water resource that they need to rehabilitate and so forth? How do you take these ideas and demonstrate the practical value on the ground?
Yeah, well, as an abstract idea, pluralism, it really looks nice and nice. But when you take that to the communities, they would tell you, well, look, we are already dealing with these issues. We have our own systems, our own structures, our own reconciliation processes. What is it that is new that you are bringing to it? So what we did was that, just as you said in the beginning in your remarks, that peace must be built. So pluralism is also something that must be, it's an act where you try to reach out to the other and then understand the other. And from the other's perspective, you look at things. So you have to make an effort really to integrate pluralism into your interactions or your dialogue processes or your engagement with your people who are around you who are different than you. So this new through this perspective, we try to kind of build capacity of local community elders, community activists, as my colleague was talking about, the community-based work in Afghanistan. That is really true, despite all the wars and conflict and destabilization that has been happening in that country. The people of Afghanistan are really resilient. They come back to it. But this way of mitigating or looking at difference by making an effort, an intellectual effort, to really understand the other's perspective, that is something that we thought maybe is kind of lacking there. And by encouraging communities to really reach out making an effort would make things a little different. And we saw through resolution of these conflicts that we, one or two that I referred to, or grazing land or water reservoirs, irrigation channels, we saw that when people make efforts to look at the other's perspective, they really then come together and then see the benefit of it. They try to understand it, and they say that they have a point as well. Just as we have a point, they also have a point. But then that understanding brings these differing people together on a common ground. So they search for common ground, and then always people really find common ground when there is an economic opportunity for economic collaboration involved as well. That I was talking about these micro grants that we gave as an opportunity, as again referred to my colleague, saying that these infrastructure projects, these irrigation, cleaning and irrigation channel really becomes more of different people coming together and then being something different than they were before, looking at each other from different perspectives and seeing each other very differently. So that's how we try to translate this abstract idea into the practical or ground realities of a complex country like Afghanistan, where just last point, that it is a fragile country with so much diversity, ethnic diversity, different languages, at least 10, 15 different languages are spoken. And then also in terms of economic development, there's so much inequality that also feeds into Afghanistan's fragility, and then issues of women as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Sultan, thank you. Imke, I might pass the microphone down to you, because I understand that you also, this idea of understanding, I know you use analysis not just as a mechanism of looking at the landscape, but as a tool for people to understand one another and their shared issues. Is that something you can speak a bit more to?
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, because Sultan, I really realized that we are so having so similar approaches in the way we do it. So I think what is unique about the work we do is that we start with an analysis, and we call it situation and conflict analysis. And the idea is to really talk to the people who are affected or involved in the conflict directly. And that moment of making people heard is so essential to really them opening up for dialogue and resolution. So it has to have first the space for me to be heard, then I can listen to others. And we try to really create safe spaces for these interviews. We take a lot of time to conduct them. It really takes sometimes a couple of months to do it. But we feel we really need these spaces to then later on kind of bring all the different perspectives together in our analysis, and then to find entry points where we can then work on. And I think we see it as, the very first intervention into the conflict system, that we actually start to listen. And furthermore, we really try, and I said that in the opening remarks, to look at the entire system, to really see what are the dynamics, what is interconnected, and I think that is really critical. And also, when we do the analysis, we never try to say this is the state of the art and it's not going to change, but we really acknowledge that conflict is changing so quickly, and we work in these very fragile settings. So also our analysis tool needs to be really flexible. And it's not about getting like the perfect analysis, but it's rather having like a joint understanding of this is what we have heard, and making people also to change your perspective and put yourself into the other one's shoes. So I think this is really a key step, and that's what we also want to do. And I think two more things is also unique. So when we finished with the analysis, we presented to the people we talk to, and so they have the chance to say, oh no, I feel like misunderstood, or there's something missing to the whole picture. And that creates an eye level we think is so essential for conflict resolution and conflict transformation. And last but not least, with the analysis we do, we not only ask about the conflict and what are the deficits, but we also ask what is already there, what is working, and who is in charge of that. And really having all these capacities and make them visible, that is so important for the people, because sometimes you only see the negative things, the things that are missing, and it really sometimes need to change the perspective and see, all right, there's already quite a lot there, and then we will be able to then see entry points to do really a change. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bienfait, I would love to ask you to just sort of jump off from this conversation and talk us through a little bit about what techniques do you use so that an agricultural project is not just an agriculture and conservation project, it is a project for building cohesion and trust and dialogue. So what are some of the techniques that you build in to that?
Thank you so much. From agriculture to peace, we pursue the idea of relationship building and trust. In communities that have been affected by conflict, most of the time people are self-interested and self-centered, and they don't really easily trust other people. And of course, when you mix conflict with the situation of scarcity and poverty affecting millions in these areas, particularly to people who have been internally displaced for decades and who keep being displaced even where they had run to, the situation become really chaotic because they lack a chance to build a relationship and to know who exactly to trust, because things keep changing for them, and that happens really quickly. So now our programs, which initially people come not knowing each other, and they almost always come to learn for their own interest individually. Everybody who come to learn how to grow food, how to produce enough food for himself or herself individually, not knowing that something about peace or reconciliation or just the idea of compassion, sympathy, empathy, and things like that. They don't come knowing that these are going to be part of the conversation. They come knowing that they are going to learn how to farm, how to produce enough for themselves and their family to feed on, and sell the surpluses for economic stability somehow. But once we have them join the center, that's when we start talking about first agriculture, of course, help them do the practical aspect of our foundation for farming techniques, the non-tillage part. We help them using demonstration systems that we have set up, how when you plow your land, you lose soil, and when you lose soil, eventually you start producing less and less. Over years, you end up with a land that no longer produces something. Now they have understood that. We help them understand that now that's when we bring in the aspect of conflict transformation. People who came in as individuals, they start learning that you cannot actually set up a funfusa yourself, because we have this structure called a funfusa, and we have made it quite challenging and a bit complicated enough that one individual cannot easily set it up. So for you to be able to successfully set up a funfusa, which is the foundational element of our foundation for farming training, you have to be a group of at least 6, because there will be serious measurement to be made. There will be a lot of inputs that have to be made for you to successfully set up a funfusa. And if you cannot set up a funfusa, it means you have not mastered the agriculture technique. Now, because the funfusa and the technique requires people to collaborate, it's now a chance to start talking about other important issues about peace and related issues, and people end up becoming friends. That's the relationship building and trust building process, then leading to completion of the funfusa and yield increased. And these people, we end up putting them in a WhatsApp group together so that they can continuously keep engaging. And they are people who came in as individuals who don't know each other. Now, in the end, they become almost like a family. And it's a relationship that we anticipate to be a long-lasting one because it's based on collaboration and goodwill. So that's literally what we try to do. It's hard, but we've seen a lot of acceptance. We have 72% of community acceptance of that approach. And more and more people are seeking that we train them in our technique, agriculture technique. We have also seen increases in agricultural production from people who have applied our model, around 65% increase. And all these things keep attracting more people to come and learn so they can go apply and then eventually become trainers of other people. So that's how we are doing it. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
That's a wonderfully practical lesson of how you build community relationships on the back of something that is elemental, which of course is feeding ourselves, our families, and our communities. I'm going to open it up to the room. We have about 15 minutes left, and I'm sure there are lots of questions for the panelists. What I might do is just gather one or two and then run back to the panel to make sure that we have enough time for people to be addressing them. I see a hand over on this side to begin.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Hi everyone, my name is Julia Emtseva. I'm an assistant professor at HEC Paris. Thank you so much for this wonderful panel. I learned really a lot. So I'm a lawyer and I work on transitional justice. And I know it too well that, when we speak about peace and justice, also we are hyper-fixated on the state. So what we want to do is to revamp a state, to restructure police, to, you know it all well. The other element is that we are also hyper-fixated on law. Let's bring to justice the perpetrators. Let's put in jail Putin and Netanyahu. I mean, yes, but also when and if it's going to happen. So this panel was really inspiring because I think that we have to talk more about this bottom-up approaches to conflict resolution. So my question is, how do we do it? So what do we have to do to mainstream what you are telling us now here in this room, that next Peace Paris Forum, we are sitting upstairs and discussing this kind of questions instead of let's rearm Ukraine or let's disarm Hamas? Thank you.
Thank you. An excellent and provocative question. I have another one right. I'm going to make you work with the microphone on the far wall.
Je vais parler en français.
Oui.
I will be speaking French. My name is Deum Safir from the International Alerts DRC. Sorry about that. We will make sure that people who do not speak French have a headset.
Attends, instant, s'il vous plaît.
Just wait for a second, please.
Merci. See, look at this, the community.
Thank you very much.
Lending each other their headphones. S'il vous plaît.
Go ahead. So my name is Deum Safiri from the International Alerts from DRC. I've been listening to the colleague who told us about the German experience. So they're trying to involve civil society to solve conflicts by analyzing different contexts. We have put in place the same practice, but it is not as similar. We've tried to implement such a solution, but state authorities were not involved. In other words, civil society can implement community-based solutions, can find solutions, but the state was not engaged and did not acknowledge such a solution. We've also tried to make state authorities accountable at the local level. We've also made sure that local authorities were involved, and they are now considered as advisors. Every time there is a new conflict situation, they will take part in it, and they can also contribute. So my question is the following. How can they try to solve a conflict along those lines without implying the authorities? And what are the challenges related to such a
We'll take
practice?
one more question, and then I'm going to circle back to the panel, and panelists can speak finally. I have one more question just here.
Thank you. My name is Marie-Roger Biloa. I'm a publisher and a TV producer. I want first to thank you for this amazing panel, I would say historic. And seeing Rula and Yael in the same group, speaking together, discussing, this made my day. And I just wanted to ask her, they said beautiful things, and I think we are all impressed. How do they manage a hot crisis like the one we are experiencing with, thousands of people being killed, and isn't not putting a big strain on their relationship, on the way they try to build peace together, and how do they relate to the authorities? I would say, especially, I can't say Palestinian authority, but anyway, with the Israeli authorities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a lovely question. If your question is 20 seconds long, I will let you ask it.
Yes, my name is Josephat Musamba. I'm a researcher. I would like to ask one question to the all panelists. We heard about Afghanistan. We know that about Gaza, Palestine, and Congo. So we can reflect on the fact that they are facing the rebel governance. In Palestine, we know Hamas, we know in Afghanistan, and in Congo, M23, relating the BNF to the case of M23. So I would like to know to what extent you guys are interacting with the rebel group by implementing your approach and techniques. Since in Congo, I know BNF would say M23 has maintained and now appointed someone who is now ruling or implementing a cohesion processes. Would you explain a little bit about that process?
Thank you. Thank you. I think the governments, authorities, and armed movements are sort of in the hot seat with these questions. And how do these local engagements, these people-to-people approaches, connect to those more formal actors, if I can call them that? I may just ask each of the panelists to run down. Imke, I might start with you, and we'll just run all the way down here. And I think there's a specific question to the two of you also, a very compassionate and big question that I'll leave for you to address. So Imke, we'll start with you. And we'll just give everybody 1 minute, and then we should be easily covered without getting kicked out of the room.
All right, so a very quick response. I think, thank you for the question also with the state authorities, and if I got it right, is it working without them? Because sometimes it's very difficult in some context. And even in Germany, it really takes a long time. So sometimes even up to a year, we are really trying to get the people in the official positions get involved, because we feel that this is a unique approach. So then there are really much more engaging when it comes to then implementing the resolution and to also transform the systems. So it takes a lot of time, but I know that there are so many other approaches who are only focusing on civil society, and I think it's like part of a puzzle, so we maybe need both, so it's very complementary to it. And in case of how to come up to the bigger room. I think it's really about changing the perspective, and this is what I also heard here so many times. It's about imagining again a different future and focusing on the long term, on the peace, and not like the short term fighting of conflict. So I think if we all kind of open up that room, that will be helpful. And thank you so much. I will pass on because I think my minute is over.
Thank you so much. I will directly answer the question of my friend. I forget your name, sorry. But interacting with the authorities, the rebels controlling the area in which we operate in, is very hard. First of all, because we still trying to understand their purpose, their goal. But your question reminds me also of a question I was asked by members of a community when we were trying to advertise our vision for peace and reconciliation. They asked me, in a rural area, somewhere in Kalehe, they asked the question that is like this: what does peace mean to the hungry, marginalized, and isolated communities? Because we were trying to tell them about peace, and then they asked it, what does it mean to the hungry, marginalized, and ignored communities? So, in short, populations really somehow don't care about who is ruling them, as long as the person ruling is solving their problems, and the basic problems, I mean. If you are able to provide their security, if you are able to give them a chance to live their life in a normal way, give them a chance to make some living, normal living. Eventually, population, especially at the bottom of the pyramid, they really don't care about who's ruling, especially also in communities where access to education has been almost denied to the majority of the people. So I think eventually whoever is able to help communities feed themselves and maintain a normal living standard would become their leader. So I think that's my response to his question. So we are still trying to see how to maneuver the context.
Bienfait, thank you. Sultan?
Yeah, thank you. The professor's question about, and the comment really about the bottom-up approach, that's exactly what we try to do in Afghanistan, that these small-scale conflicts at the local level, they just spill over, aggregate, and then they sometimes at the national level, they just create that kind of instability. If you go to the communities and resolve those conflicts at the local level, then that's a recipe for success, really. And that's how you stabilize societies. And I think this is a great potential solution for a multi-ethnic and complex country like Afghanistan. In terms of engagement with the government, with authorities, our project was designed before the regime change, and after the Taliban came to power, they were reluctant. They didn't allow us to really implement this, and then said that, look, peace building is our kind of, this is like we do, and who you are to kind of address these issues. Law enforcement. This is our job. You're not supposed to do that. But then we had to engage in a dialogue with them that peace is not just law enforcement; it's more than that. And then you stabilize your society not just by, as you said, from the state level, just imposing the law on the people, but also enabling people to sort of take control of their own, as it were, destinies, and then be nice citizens, and then engage with the state in a way that they lessen the burden on the state, really. So there's no need for you to kind of brutally implement your edicts, your law, or whatever it is. So engagement with the authorities, especially those who are rebels and in other contexts as well, I can imagine from Afghanistan, it would require a lot of patient dialogue with them, and and then making them understand, and then sort of highlighting that it's just a state's responsibility or this group's responsibility is not limited to a few things, but it has to be a partnership between the state and the citizenry and the people or communities to transform societies for the better. Thank you.
Sultan, thank you. I will pass this over to Yael and Rula.
Well, thank you for your question. It indicates actually that it's possible. I'm not claiming that it's easy, but there are some reasons for that, that me and Yael are able to sit here and to speak to each other. And it's not only both of us, it's a lot of people that are engaged in this work. First of all, again, we created this political vision together, and we know that it meets the desires and the interests of both of us without giving compromises and without closing our eyes on the problems on the ground and the atrocities. I cannot claim that it was easy during the last 2 years. It's been very difficult sometimes to speak to each other. But again, we have a very strong, solid belief in this political vision and the principles that it's based on. And we don't have other alternatives. The other alternative is actually to give our governments and political leaders who lack any sense of good leadership to actually maintain the situation that we are in. I can say also that there has no been any political vision during the last at least 2 decades in Israel-Palestine, except of annexation and occupation and violence and supremacy and oppression. And we are offering something different, and we are doing that because it's our lives and our future. We are not doing a favor to each other, at least. And we know that without giving our people a new political vision that can shape their future in a better way, we are all lost.
Thank you.
It's good that you said it because I was going to cry. So, I just want to address a little bit this thing about working with law versus working with communities, or trying to transform a state versus trying to transform people. And I think that it's time that we stop making those binaries, because we need power everywhere, and we need to be able to speak those languages, not singularly, but also not to say, oh, those people they're on that side. They do law, and we do community organizing. Or we are the protesters, and they are those who call the shots. And it's absolutely necessary to have the experience of everyone, because we need to change our regimes. I mean, we need to change our states. We need to change so much. But the only way we do it is with the expertise and the knowledge and the care and the love that people have for their countries. And, you know, when you come from a society like my own, that is very, very guilty right now, you have to maintain that connection with people and the parts of them that want to live and want to let others live also.
Elaha, I'm going to give you the final word.
Yes, I think I'll answer the gentleman's question about the government. The de facto authorities in Afghanistan actually do play a role in most of our projects because they have to be government approved. It's just too risky to not, to do these underground, low-key projects. And frankly, we're outside of the country. We don't want our partners. It's about do no harm as well. So our community and livelihood projects, they love, because it just makes them look good, building water canals and irrigation channels. It's the truth. Now, they actually but it starts with community buy-in. And once you have community buy-in, you can get the approvals, and actually most of our projects in this space has to be approved by the Ministry of Rehabilitation and Development. So the community are still the implementers, but they actually do monitor the projects. I think we're way out of time.
Laha,
so
thank you. We are out of time. I won't in any way try to sum this up, except to say that His Late Highness the Aga Khan, who's the founder of the organization that I lead, said many times that pluralist societies are not accidents of history. They require deliberate decisions and choices by individuals as well as institutions. And I can't think of a better collection of examples of that than this panel. So thank you all, and thank you all for being with us.